This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, Jeremy Rutherford, and Jeff Burton on 101 ESPN.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donnie Fandango joined in the Jeff Burton studios by our homeboy, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, also handling all your pre- and post-game and inter-period duties during Blues hockey. And the big podcast is brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Real quick, I would assume that with the nasty weather in which that we have gotten over the course of the last week or so, that there might be some folks that are having some really bad surprises when it comes to their roofing issues. Like maybe you have determined, oh crap, there's something going on there. Call our good friends over there at Blue Note Roofing. They're going to be able to help you out.
Especially with all that snow sitting on top as it melts away and drains down. You don't want to deal with that.
I'm just thinking about the people who notice that they have a roof issue and they go, oh, crap. That's what they're saying.
More absurd words that are said at that point.
I really do just try to watch the swears on here, because if I don't, then I forget, and then I forget to tell Mike Ryder, and I just don't want to get fired over saying a swear word on this podcast.
And then Mike comes up to me and he's like, why did somebody tell me that there's a cuss word on there? I'm like, sorry, Donnie blacked out. I didn't know what happened.
We want to make sure you guys know too, and we talked about this last week on the podcast, the Last Minute Blues Podcast going live at Hot Shots in Fenton, Tuesday, December the 16th from 6 to 7:30, all in support of Operation Food Search and the Point Holiday Food Drive, canned or non-perishable food donation to score one of the brand new Last Minute Blues Podcast stickers. And like, these things are like matted.
Oh, yeah.
So they like look really, really, really sharp. I am exceptionally thankful for what our promotions department has done.
I would have brought it so I could show it, but I actually went home and I stuck it on my car. So
You did already.
Yeah, it's on her car. I stuck it on my wife's car. I'm not putting it on mine. I just stuck it on hers. She'll get people honking at her and be like, what is going on?
While you're out there, you've got a chance to win big. A signed Jordan Bennington jersey, tickets to multiple upcoming Blues games, and even a chance, and I can't wait to play this for the first time, our game, Good Puck, Bad Puck, for a shot at an autographed puck signed by either a current Blues favorite or a not so favorite from the past. Hello, Jakub Vrana.
I had a buddy of mine go, do you think that, like, what if one of those guys gets upset? I said, I tell you what, if I run into Jakub Vrana at some point in my life down the road and he gets mad at me about the good puck, bad puck, then you know what? I'll have that conversation with him.
What, Jakub, I'm so sorry that I look at your time in St. Louis the way that I do. I'm so sorry. I was clearly wrong. You made such an impact in your time here.
And here's the thing. Somebody could stick their hand and be like, hell yeah, Jakub Vrana.
You never know.
I'm not so worried about the guys' feelings that we're potentially going to hurt. It's going to be that we're going to have to go pick up a few pucks in the parking lot. People who got those guys, they just drop them in the lot.
We'll have to tell Hot Shots, be like, hey, sorry, you got a couple of loose pucks out in front if that's okay.
Yeah, we got to announce no littering. You cannot just drop your puck in the lot.
Absolutely. You have to take it home with you.
Or one chucked at us.
Yeah.
If you can dodge a puck, you can dodge a ball.
Dude, I watched that movie not very long ago.
Phenomenal movie.
So good. But if you need details on our live Last Minute Blues podcast, taping December 16th at Hot Shots Fenton, 1057thepoint.com, 101ESPN.com. It's going to be a really good time. I can't wait to see the peoples. And then also, too, we'll be hanging out socially in the evening. I like that as well. And also, let's not forget during this podcast, I mean, like, we're going to have drinks and stuff, too.
That's dangerous for JR.
I don't know. Maybe we get a little stupid. I think we probably will if I had to take a guess.
Almost guarantee we will at that point.
Okay, guys, I want to talk about something non-Blues related off the jump here really quick. Something that I just heard yesterday, and I can't help but laugh about this sort of, even though it's probably not in the end funny. But Frank Saravelli with the report yesterday that. And not only Saravelli with the report, but my old buddy, Sourface, Peter DeBoer, I guess saw the main Olympic hockey rink in Italy. And not only is the rink not completed, or I believe close to it, but this revelation came to be from Pete, that the actual ice is going to be 3 to 4 feet shorter than an NHL rink. first of all, what? Like, guys, how can this be? And also, and I ask this dead seriously, is there a way at this point that the NHL backs out? Because, I mean, are we putting players' safety at risk here? Like, how big of a deal is this? Because to me, as kind of an outsider, this seems huge. It's like a baseball field with base paths that are 85 feet instead of 90 or whatever.
Which probably sounds like to people it doesn't matter, but to those guys when they get on the ice, oh man, they can tell.
Of course they could tell. They've spent their whole lives pretty much on one or two size rinks. Can we talk about this? Is insane to me.
I was just thinking of Vince Coleman with 200 stolen bases if they're 85 feet apart.
Right,
like, well, this is illegal right now. So correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the Olympic rinks smaller than NHL anyway?
Well, here's the thing.
Is that the international size of the rink?
European ice is bigger. The NHL rink is smaller, and the rink that they're going to use for the Olympics is, it's a few inches, feet off. The troubling part for me is that this caught the NHL off guard.
Yeah.
So the reports caught the NHL off guard. They're going to check into it. To answer your big question, would the NHL pull out? I don't think it'll come to that. Mm-hmm. I would think they'd attempt to fix the issue, but we're talking about Olympic Games that are just months away. So I don't know how they fix it. It's just like the SoFi Stadium in LA, right? They were supposed to have the
Super Bowl, right?
The World Cup.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the stadium wasn't equipped to hold the World Cup, so they just had to go somewhere else.
Move it elsewhere.
So I don't know how that's going to come, but the NHL, now that they're aware of it, is going to go check it out and likely probably rectify that.
The wildest part for me wasn't so much the rink being smaller. It was the fact that the building wasn't even close to being done yet. Like, I saw pictures of it. The one side of the building isn't even completed. Now, they're probably thinking, we've got a couple of months to get this wrapped up. We should be able to have this completed in time. But I mean, my goodness, you're talking about the Olympics starting in 2 months and they don't even have the building finished yet.
I read a report a couple of weeks ago before that this had even circulated, that, they were very concerned on like if there were going to be concessions open, like, the concourses, like things like that. I just, guys, like, that's 2.5, 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like right here. It's very alarming to me. And then I guess was it sort of like the IOC or somebody like, I don't know, like dodging information games with Gary Bettman and the NHL so that the NHL didn't know what was going on?
It almost had to, because the NHL, what they agreed to was the NHL rink.
Yeah.
So, but that's why, and I think we really need to think about this for a second. A lot of people give the NHL trouble, grief, for not wanting to be in the Olympics. Their main sticking points over the years is they have to shut down their league for 2 or 3 weeks, which, is understandable. Like, the owners don't want to do that. But there's issues beyond it, which now are coming to, the spotlight, that have been the case a lot over the years, not necessarily the size of the rink. This is just the latest one, but there are issues like that the NHL has to deal with because they're not in charge. Look, when the NHL puts on an event, Stanley Cup, Winter Classic, Stadium, like everything is down to a T. That's not the case in these situations. And now last minute, here they are dealing with something.
Think of the Winter Classic, think of the 4 nations that they've done. Like, everything is put together perfectly so it runs smoothly. And now you're talking about another hiccup that could alter an injury of a player because you're talking smaller rinks. It could alter more in terms of interest with it. And if that gets delayed, that puts an entire snag into the NHL season because they've already condensed the schedules and they've got 3 weeks of nothing going on. My guess is if it's not ready and done in time, that they find a different area for the players to play in. But I don't know how that affects the Olympics because obviously they have all of the Olympians in one spot, which is supposed to be Milan.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to be vacationing in Lower Arnold for 3 weeks.
Oh, man, I've heard the weather's great there. The water's beautiful. You can get out on a boat at that time of the year.
Merrimack.
There just comes to be sports stories that pop along every once in a while, and you double back and go, what? Yeah. And that was one for me yesterday. I was like, somebody did poor math here. And my biggest thing is I just don't want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, anybody get hurt because of this or because they're not, used to the ice size.
My big thing, too, is I don't want it to jeopardize the Olympics moving forward. Like, if this goes poorly, the NHL is not going to want to do this again. And, I mean, yes, there's a reason that these owners in NHL don't want to do it. But, man, in terms of fan, you talk about continuing to build your product where the NHL is already night and day better than where it was 15, 20 years ago. Man, this is how you continue to expand your product. And the Olympics, especially with all of the talent they have right now, probably the last time you're going to see Sidney Crosby compete in the Olympics. Like, you don't want this to be jeopardized. And I want more Olympics because I don't know if you guys remember it, when the Olympics took place and it wasn't NHL players, that wasn't fun to watch. Like, this is appointment television typically once you hit this time of the year. I specifically remember the one that they played that Sidney Crosby had the game winner in, the TJ Sochi one. Like, my dad and I made it an appointment to drive back from Savannah, Georgia with my sister for college to get home in time for that gold medal game. Like, that's what the Olympics are. So I hope this doesn't get ruined for future Olympics.
Absolutely so. Hey, real quick too, just while I'm thinking about this, and I was going to bring him up and talk about him anyway, but with the season in which that Jordan Bennington has had, up and down, I think would be a fair way to say, maybe not his best showing so far. Do you think, guys, that puts his stock in jeopardy at all for Team Canada? I mean, I would assume probably not that he's going to go in there being their number one or their 1B, but has there been anybody that you've seen that might be creeping up on Jordan to maybe take the nets for Team Canada?
I mean, the only guy that I could see make it interesting with him is the Capitals guy, Logan Thompson. I mean, he's put on a show this year, but I might just be because I'm a Bennington honk. I don't know how he's not the number one going into the Olympics, even for how poorly he's played. Doug Armstrong's in charge of that team. Doug Armstrong knows that big games Jordan Bennington seems to show up, and he just won you the Four Nations tournament. So unless it just goes completely haywire or he's bad in one of the games in the Olympics, I think you start with Jordan Bennington.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to jeopardize his spot. I think we can't be naive. There has to be some concern, right, with Team Canada. But I think they also look at it through a different lens in that you're talking about a different roster with a,
all-world team in front of them.
All-world team, all-world defense. Now, having said that, it's not like all the Blues issues are the Blues skaters, defensemen, like it has been Jordan Bennington and Joel Hofer. But I think that they look at Jordan Bennington like that guy who rises to the occasion. And with a different team in front of him, it's different. Now, that's not to say he's going to get there and let in a few goals, and people are going to say, see, look, he's not the goalie that maybe he was even at the
did that at the Four Nations
right?
too, though.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So I think there's got to be some concern, but I don't think it's going to take a spot.
All right. So, I know that one of the things that we try to do in the podcast is sort of look forward and not look back as much and revisit. But I think what happened on Monday night between not only the Blues and the Ducks, but what specifically happened between Jordan Bennington and Coach Montgomery needs to be brought up here for a couple of reasons. I just want to get you guys' opinion on it. For me, watching the game, it looked like two not great goals, and it looked like Coach Montgomery had had enough.
What gave that away?
Had enough. But at the same time, was Benner screened on those? To me, it feels like the time that you pull a goalie with a couple of goals like that. But at the same time, am I incorrect? Should Montgomery maybe stuck with him and let him ride it out to try to figure it out? Do you guys put anything into the little interaction that they had between the two of them on the bench?
Before we answer, what would you have done? From a fan's perspective, did you see that and say, you can't pull him there?
Wait, Donnie's a fan?
Yeah, no, not at all. He's wearing a San Jose Sharks jersey. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Dudes, I saw both of those goals. I thought maybe he might have been screened on one or two, or maybe one of them, but they looked like goals that in the end he probably should have made, saves that he should have made. And I was all for it, but I also understand when you're getting pulled 10 minutes into the game and you're not happy about it, that you're going to let the coach hear about it as well. So like, I kind of don't have a problem with any part of it, really.
JR?
Well, I think there's so many different things that come into this conversation. It's not just pulling the goalie in a 2-1 game 10 minutes into the game. What did Jim Montgomery say afterwards? He said that there were times earlier this season where he thought about pulling him. He didn't. A couple more goals went in, and then he regretted not pulling him. So let's say those games had not happened earlier in the year. Would Jim Montgomery have had the same, want to pull him as he did a couple nights ago? The other thing is this. If you watch the replay, you see that Jim Montgomery on the bench, and the camera's on him, FanDuel camera's on him, and Steve Ott is on the headset, and he's talking to, likely, Davey Alexander, the goalie coach, and you see Steve Ott kind of lean over and tell Montgomery, and as soon as he tells him that, then Jim Montgomery says, Hofer, get out there. Davey Alexander is the Team Canada goalie coach. This is a all-world goalie coach, and he is in lockstep with Jordan Bennington. He knows when he's right, when he's not right. He knows, do you like the goals? Do you not like the goals? And it looks like, it appears, I need to qualify that he gives the go-ahead to that, hey, we should pull him. So they do. And I think it's a situation where all those factors come into play here, right? And Jim Montgomery, as the head coach, is going to have to, explain why, and he did. But he said, look, situation in the past, I wanted to pull him, I didn't. This time I felt like we did. I didn't like the goals, and you move on. And what do you expect from Jordan Bennington? If we don't know who he is at this point in his career, then when are we ever going to know who Jordan Bennington is? Right. And so, honestly, even though he hasn't never gone off the ice and barked at the coach that we know of, even though he has never gone to the locker room and sat out the rest of the first period, I know right?
No, it's never happened.
Even though these things have never happened, who would be shocked that he would bark at the so? Yesterday we were at his locker, we talked to him, and he wasn't backing down. He said, "This is why I did it. It was my instinct. I would hope." This is him talking. I would hope that people would respect somebody who has the fire, who wants to stay in the game and battle. And that's why Jordan Bennington fans like him, because that's who he is. And then when he talked about the goals, that's the one thing, is he did say, kind of screened on one, kind of the other guy had a lot of space, so he didn't necessarily fall on the sword when he was talking about these goals, but he did defend his actions in a way that you would expect Jordan Bennington.
And that's probably where the frustration came from, him realizing that's look, that first one, in my opinion, that first one was tipped off a Fowler's stick. It's like he was posted up, the shot follow through, hit Fowler's stick, the puck was moving. That one I can at least explain.
So did you, just to interject, did you, I watched replay, you watched replay, it was just hard. So you felt like you saw?
I felt like I saw the follow through with the Anaheim Ducks player's stick hit Fowler's, and the puck started moving awkwardly. Now, I don't know if it changed the trajectory of the puck from into his pads to the top shelf, but it definitely wasn't going into the full angle that Jordan Bennington was set up on, at least from my non-goaltender eye. The second one was the one where it was like, oh, okay, yeah, you got to pull him. I mean, he was so far up in his crease, far post. I mean, that one felt like there was no way Jordan Bennington was set up to make that save. Maybe the defenseman played it differently and he thought the puck was coming a different angle. The second one was the one for me where it was like, okay, he's not on his game. And that was the part for me where it was like, okay, good. I respect Jim Montgomery. And it's not so much about Jordan Bennington not being able to make the saves, and it was more about the team in front of him. How many times this year have we seen a team score like that, and then the Blues just completely go dead, and then the other team just pushes and pushes and pushes, and it becomes a 4 or 5-1 game. So that, to me, is where Jim Montgomery made that decision. Maybe it was some on Jordan Bennington not looking great, but I think a majority of the decision was, look, we don't need our team falling flat in this game being done in the first period. It's a 1-goal hockey game. We're trying to win 3 in a row. Bennington doesn't have it. Let's go to Joel Hofer, and then we'll try and spark some energy here. So I had no problem with it because we saw the other side earlier this season, and it went poorly for the Blues. On the Bennington, I just don't understand how people make a mountain out of a molehill with just like Bennington has flung his stick at a guy's face because he scored a goal on him. Like, this guy's got fire.
Right.
So I don't know why we are surprised that when he gets pulled in a game that, in his opinion, I'm fine. This is a 1-goal game.
Yeah.
10 minutes in. I have no issue with him MFing Jim Montgomery as he goes to the bench. Jim Montgomery MFing him back, and then he comes back out for the start of the second period. If he stayed in that locker room for the entire game, cool. Let's have a conversation. Now we got a Patrick Waugh situation on our hands. He didn't. He had to break a couple of sticks. He had to punch a couple of walls, safely, of course. And then he came back out there for the start of the second period. So I had no issue with the whole scenario itself. That's Jordan Bennington to a T. And frankly, how many goalies have we seen that are hockey Hall of Famers that lose their ish on the ice at times? So,
absolutely. I also, too, JR, and if folks aren't following JR on Instagram, TikTok, no, you absolutely should, because you're putting out all kinds of videos after practice, before games, and you had the video yesterday of the scrum with Jordan Bennington, and I found his sort of like body language, and I hate to say this, but like his vibe, to be very interesting. It just seemed like he was on the defensive a little bit, which I completely understand. But what I loved about it is that it really, and this is me just being a Benner honk, I know, but it just feels as though, JR, when you asked him, I don't remember the question, but I felt like he took a beat, looked directly at you, and wanted to give you like a good answer for the question in which that you asked him about getting pulled. And I just really like that about Benner. It does not seem like, I don't know that he's not going to give you the canned answer, I guess, is what I like about him. Would you agree? I mean, would you agree there?
Yeah, and I'm late to the video game in terms of putting the videos
Get out of here, Spielberg.
Listen, here's the thing. I am so descriptive in my writing that when you read the articles, it feels like you are right there, that I didn't feel the need for video all these years.
Amen. Amen. JR said, I'm not
I didn't know where you were going for a second. I was like, all right, yeah. That's it, JR.
You want to be a type of writer where when you write these things, you try to put people in the room, but admittedly, you can't provide what you just took from the body language. Like, you can't describe the body language, as well as you can see it. And
he was almost fidgety, sort of almost, not to interrupt you, but
and just to provide some context. So, he comes off the ice, he sits down at his stall, he's taken off his gear. Over the years, you learn not to approach somebody.
I was going to say, you all are huddled around him, waiting for him to get his gear off.
It's funny, there's 15 of us, and we're 20 feet away, then we're 18 feet away, then we're 16 feet away. You get closer, and then he said, hey, I'll be back in a minute, guys. I know you want to talk. And so we did. And obviously, during that time, he's thinking about what he's going to say and how he's going to answer these questions. So I always respect Jordan Bennington, because he does try to provide some sort of answer, and I felt like he did there. And I'm glad that you can see the body language in the video. Now that
I felt it in the article when I was reading it, JR.
Now that video has been, now that they have created video and we can use it. No,
can I give you some PTSD real quick about standing next to the goalie while he's getting his gear off?
Is it Ryan Miller?
Oh my God, I wasn't going to say the name, but he did it. Oh my God, I'll never forget. This was when I was the booth assistant, or I was working at KMOX at the time. And so we're down in the locker room. I think this was after a game that he lost in the playoffs to the Blackhawks. And I mean, there's 40 or 50 people in that room waiting to talk to Ryan Miller. And everybody is just like, here's his stall. Everyone is just standing there. And he just stands up and he goes, can you guys bleep and give me some space while I take my gear off? I walked out. I said, I don't even want to get the audio anymore. I'm so uncomfortable.
Ryan Miller wanted it both ways. He wanted you to back off if you got too close, right? But if you stayed too far back, he would take off and then say, well, it didn't look like you guys
didn't want to talk to me.
So he wanted it both ways. But the best Ryan Miller ever, super quick, is when they did lose to the Blackhawks, and I believe this was at United Center, and we asked him, okay, so now what? Are you going to re-sign with the team? Are you coming back? Like, what's the deal? And he said, well, because they were out of the playoffs and his schedule was free, he goes, now I can go to my sister's wedding or something like that. I don't know if you want to tell Blues fans you just lost in the playoffs and now you can go to your sister's.
JR goes back up top. Well, there will not be a contract extension for this individual.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break here real quick. Last Minute Blues podcast coming back with JR, Alex, and Donnie. That was a really weird transition, but more of the Last Minute Blues podcast coming next. All right, we are back. Guys, so throughout the course of this season, it has been a roller coaster ride of emotions.
What? No, I feel like it's been all peaks.
It's been really, really tough to find a lot of positives here lately, and I'm not definitely saying that there have been, but I would like to ask this question. It seems as though in the last week or so, they've been playing better. It seems as though I just don't want to bail yet, guys. I mean, are things a little bit, are you seeing anything that could give you signs of hope that maybe some kind of turnaround could be here? And I would guess that part of that is probably weighted in the fact that after every game, there's another body that goes down too, that we lose another player.
Well,
so
that's part of it. But I mean, the problem for me, and I'm with you, Donnie, because it's so hard to check out, because it does feel like at some point, I was looking at this, they've scored the same amount of goals per game at this point of the season that they did last year up to this point. And this was when Jim Montgomery took over. So they were scathed offensively last year, and then all of a sudden they busted out. So that's what worries me. But much like we've seen this season, that game against the Ducks, just like the game against the Capitals, just like the game against the Rangers, every time I want to get excited and say like, okay, they figured it out. Because to me, they won 2 in a row. They played 3 really solid hockey games: Devils, the Senators, and then the Utah Hockey Club. Utah Mammoth. God, I hate that they changed that name again. That's 3 in a row. And it's like, if you would have got that 4th one against the Ducks, I would have been like, okay, that's 4 straight games where you've played solid hockey. You beat some really good opponents. Now I'm willing to listen. But then you laid the egg against the Ducks. And I hate to say laid the egg because, defensively they were fine. They didn't give up a whole lot. The goalie struggled early on, and then Joe Hofer locked it down the rest of the way. But man, offensively, this team just does not have finishers right now. So, I had a stat going into it. They had played in 8 straight games where they entered the 3rd period not allowing more than 2 goals to their opponent. So every single game they played in for 8 straight, they were within 1 goal of striking distance of that opponent, whether on top or beneath them. So that, to me, is like, cool, you fixed your defense. Your goaltending has been great. Offensively, it'll come. But then you get the injuries. Then you lay the egg where you go 0 for 6 on a power play with 5 shots on goal.
Boy, they were really giving us every opportunity to come back in that game,
and you can't score at 5 on 5. You have multiple open nets. So do I want to buy out? Absolutely not, because I do think this team could go on a run at some point. But it's so hard to stay checked in when every 4th or 5th game, an egg gets laid. And then it's like, how am I? To me, that's a 500 team that wins a couple, lays an egg, loses a couple in overtime, wins a couple, and then lays an egg. That's the repetitiveness right now that's hard for me to buy on board.
And Alex, you talked about the offense. Jim Montgomery actually had a comment yesterday that we were kind of tied up with the Bennington stuff, so we couldn't, do much with it. But he said that, hey, look, if you look at the offensive numbers pre-Four Nations and you look at the offensive numbers this season, they're really similar, like Alex said. And Jim basically at the podium said, that's who our offense is, with the exception of the Four Nations run. And look, I don't know how much more video you need than the game against the Ducks in terms of the offensive opportunities. And I always hesitate to say 5-foot gimme putts in front of the net, because I've never played a hockey game in my life.
I also miss those 5-foot putts.
Like Jake Neighbor said after the game the other night, he said, yeah, it's a lot easier said than done. I get it. All due respect to these guys. However, this is what we do. We talk about, the team and what's going wrong with them. And there were just way too many missed opportunities in front of the net with a chance to take the lead, tie the game, everything. 0 for 6 on the power play. And the power play, I think I looked it up, 1 for its last 20 after going on a pretty good run.
Yeah, they were 8th or 9th best in the National Hockey League
before that. And then this recent run of, 1 for 20 and 0 for 6 the other night. So, as Jim Montgomery said, I think this is what this offense is. It really is. And it's not to say that, next week you can't see a, Jordan Kyrou hat trick and Thomas has 2 and, Holloway goes on a tear. These players are have that potential. It's just they are not executing,
and they're not consistent with it. Like that's the difference between the stars in the game or superstars in the game and what the Blues have. I think they have a top centerman in Robert Thomas. I think they have a 35 goal scorer in Jordan Kyrou. I think Holloway and Snuggerud and Dvorsky have elite stuff. But the difference between those players and guys like, Jason Robertson or Nathan McKinnon, all these all-star, superstar talent, every single night you know what you're going to get. Yeah. And this team, you've got guys that on a nightly basis, I'm not sure what's going to show up. So that's like watching them, and I didn't hear that quote, and that's a really good one from Jim Montgomery. They're just missing that finisher. They're missing the guy, which is why it's hard to buy in, Donnie, because you're now without Jimmy Snuggerud, who we've seen with a flick of a wrist can put the puck in the net. You've been without a couple of these other guys in terms of their overall play, like Pavel Buchnevich, Dalibor Dvorsky's gone quiet lately. You just don't have the finisher right now on this team, and that's going to be really difficult to win hockey games.
I don't know. Oh, no.
That point's taken totally. The Blues need finishers, and I know you know that. The Blues are built on the sum of their parts, right? And so Jordan Kyrou, he can finish and finish with 40, but the Blues probably aren't going to be a playoff team if he finishes with 40 and everybody else has 18. Like they've got to score. And the other night, whether it be Robert Thomas, Jake Neighbors, Dvorsky had a shot.
Pavel Buchnevich had the one.
Buchnevich, and the game before that even. And so this team needs 2 or 3 or 4 guys who aren't necessarily don't have to be elite finishers, but they got to finish.
Doesn't it feel like, though, if you get one elite finisher, that it opens up more potential because then the focus goes onto that line and then other opportunities open up?
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, for sure. And you were right in what you're saying. I just feel like, if this team is going to be successful, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys, they just have to contribute. And we just haven't seen that this season.
I want to ask this real quick before we go to break again for the last time. But what is... I always got the assumption that the front office is picking the roster and then Coach Montgomery is the one deciding on who's playing. And I want to know, like, as the team struggles the way that it has this year, what do you think the conversations are like between Montgomery and Steen and Armstrong? How much say does Coach Montgomery have in saying, to the upper brass, hey, I think this guy's going to work out. Hey, this guy's driving me freaking crazy. We got to do, how much, long story short, how much say does Coach have with, player personnel stuff?
Okay, before we answer that, let's pick the guys who we think that Montgomery's saying, he's driving me crazy. I'm kidding.
I was like, no. We're not going to play good puck, bad puck here.
Also, before I get to that, I do really like Booch, but I swear to gosh, anytime that he gets the opportunity right in front of the goal where there's nobody in front of him, he shoots it into the goalie's freaking chest every single goddamn time. Maybe not every single time, but it drives me nuts. Anyway, back to
we found Donnie's.
I know what I like, Booch, but like it feels like the dude is like snake bit on top of snake bit.
Yeah, the way I understand it, in talking to several coaches over the years, is that yes, the general management definitely have a say/strong arm in which direction they're going, which guys are playing. I've heard coaches say the GM wants these 3 guys in the lineup, and I push back on this guy. And so I think ultimately the management is going to say that the coaches make the decisions, even though the management does, as I said. But I do think the coach can win out with some of them. So yeah, we're going to see that play out over the next couple months. Yeah. And obviously there's going to be trades too, but I think we're going to see, which direction this team is going, who's playing. You can deduce from who you see playing that who they feel like can be a part of this moving in the future. But so I think it's a give and take, but I have listened to coaches. I've actually heard one coach, I guess we shouldn't say a name, but I played the guys he wanted me to play.
Yep.
So,
I remember that quote.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know who that is.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep names to a minimum.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well, let's do this. Let's take a break. We got some emails, and then we got to go be on the radio. I got to be on the radio.
JR's got to do a midday show on 101 ESPN.
there's probably 12 articles that JR is working on right now.
No,
that we're
it's
keeping
video
him.
now.
Now I'm doing
that's
video.
That's right. That's right. More with the Last Minute Blues podcast coming next, everybody. All right, so we are back. Last Minute Blues podcast. Don't forget, Last Minute Blues podcast live at Hot Shots in Fenton on Tuesday, December the 16th, 6 to 7:30, all in support of Operation Food Search and the Point Holiday Food Drive. Like we said, folks, we want to be helping Operation Food Search bring stuff out to their truck.
Yeah.
We want there to be so much going on there. So please come out, help us out. It's a great cause, and we're going to have a lot of fun that night talking Blues hockey and hanging out.
Even have a microphone up for you so you can walk up and ask questions.
You can go ahead and ask some
Look at
questions.
that.
All right, a few
Keep
questions.
it tight, though.
Please. There's a limited amount of time here, and I get to go to bed at some point or the other, and I'm not staying up for your wacky-ass questions. All right. A couple things here. We'll begin. We'll begin with Julie. Julie messages in. This isn't even a question, just a statement. Jake Neighbors needs to be the face of the Blues. Plain and simple. Dude has so much fight and heart. Make this kid the captain. That is all. Carry on. Let's go Blues. That's from Julie.
It's funny how he says this is a statement because that's a lot of my questions in the locker room. I think I even threw the other day, I made a statement and then at the end I said, right? Put a question mark at the end.
I'll never forget Jay Bomeister did that to me in one of the games. You guys weren't down in the locker. I think I've told this story before. JR, Lou weren't in the locker room yet because they were finishing a story. It went to overtime, so they had to type it up. So it was me and two other just radio microphones that were down there. And I'm in there and I'm like, I guess I have to ask the first question. And of course, Jay Bomeister, who's a very silent individual, is standing there. It was after a loss and I blabbered some type of weird statement and he just paused and he looked at me and he goes, was that even a question? And I'm like, cool, I'm going to go dig a hole in the back of the Enterprise Center.
Les Claypool from Primus did that to me.
Oh,
And
you hate Primus ever since?
No, I still love Primus.
I liked Bomeister too.
But it was such a killer, and I could not recover from that. It took me
about a year.
Dude, it was friggin' rough, man. It was rough.
I just didn't go into the room when JR was sitting down there. I'm like, no, I'm going to stay up top.
the emailer is correct. Jake Neighbors is terrific. He's a great face for the organization. He definitely will be that guy for years to come. And I think just the way he handles himself, even after the Anaheim game, there's some athletes speak in terms of, hey, we're getting closer type stuff with him, but you have to be that way a little bit. But I do think he's one of the guys who tries to address the concern, answer the question.
I think he and Dylan Holloway are always very honest when they speak about this team. Even after the loss the other night, Dylan Holloway was very adamant about, look, we need to start shooting the puck more. We can't keep passing by with these. So I think the honesty is there. And the thing about Jake Neighbors is too, because, I know he hasn't scored a lot since he's returned from the injury. You can see him fighting through trying to get back up to game speed with that injury. I mean, he even said it before he came back, when you're out with a leg, it's hard to get back up to speed at the NHL because they keep taking steps forward. Players do that keep playing while you're waiting around and have to play catch up. So his offense will come back again, but you could tell it's like even when he's not scoring, he's still doing everything possible to try and create offense.
I want to read this email from Dylan. Dylan, if you remember.
Dylan Holloway, how about this?
No, but we'll remember Dylan as the biggest Tyler Tucker fan that the Last Minute Blues podcast has as a listener.
Okay.
So Dylan messages in, and this is more on the Jake Neighbors things. Good day, gentlemen. Question: I love Shin as a captain. He is one of the best captains in the league, but rumors are saying Shinner is on the move. If Shin is moved, rumors are just rumors, but still, who is the next captain? I'm rooting for Neighbors. The young man embodies the Blues way of hockey. Would love your input. Thanks, guys. Let's go Blues. Top pair, Tyler Tucker. That's from Dylan.
Right Tyler
winger,
Tucker.
Yeah.
So, guys, I think the big thing for me in this situation, just as a fan, is I just want whoever the captain of this team is to friggin' wear it every single freaking night and to leave it on the ice every single freaking night. And there is no one on this team that embodies that more right now than Jake Neighbors. But is there a possibility that if Shinner is gone because of seniority, because of who already has the A's, I mean, is Robert Thomas going to be the next captain before Jake Neighbors is the next captain?
I got to be 100%. I don't know if they name a captain. And I don't know how long that lasts. I know that happened after Berube was gone or after they traded away Ryan O'Reilly. They didn't really name a captain for a little bit until they gave it to Shen. I don't know if they name one. And frankly, I think it's going to be one, if they trade Schenn in season, it's going to be let's let Steen, the man in charge, help make that decision with Jim Montgomery and the players. But it's also going to be, let's see what this roster looks like first.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there'd be a captain the rest of the year if they traded Schenn tomorrow. I think, like Alex said, probably wait until next season, Alexander Steen takes over, and then they decide a captain. But to answer the question, and this is a very difficult question, it really is, because I think that for years it's been thought that it could be Robert Thomas, and it could still be. I think that he is a guy with a ton of skill who can be a leader on this team. But I think that Jake Neighbors has shown so much maturity and so many captain characteristics that it's hard not to look at him like that. Mm-hmm. But I think if we're just being honest here, the difficult part would be to give Jake Neighbors the C over Robert Thomas, with Robert Thomas still on the roster. I think that would be hard for him. I think it'd be hard for, just the locker room dynamic. And
it's kind of a slap in the face, right?
Yeah. And are you asking for trouble by doing that, but you feel like you're doing the right thing? I think it's going to be a challenge for the organization if they decide to go with Jake Neighbors. But again, that's not to say that they wouldn't give this to Robert
If you're going
Thomas.
seniority, though, wouldn't you look at Parayko first?
Yeah, I would just think that, him being, a little bit older and maybe on that outgoing core. Yeah. I mean, and Doug Armstrong is on the record in the past as saying you give the C to the captain who is the guy at that moment. You don't think about contract. You don't think about future. You don't think about this and that. But I think with all that said, and then also you got to think about Parayko. Is he that type of guy?
Yeah.
I think he's...
Well, and I'd argue you'd have to ask that about Thomas too. And I'm not trying to be too cruel about it, but I think you'd have to ask the question about Thomas too, with the struggles that they've gone through for 4 years and how frustrated he can get at times. Like sometimes you have to ask that type of question, and then you have to go off the style of the coach, don't you? Like you have to look at the coach and the style that they want to play and match that with the player. And Jim Montgomery likes that gritty, hard-nosed, forechecking style. It's kind of why, David Backus was the clear choice of a captain when Ken Hitchcock was there, right? Because it just matched how Hitch wanted to play. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be cruel with Thomas. I'm just looking at the other side of this. I wonder if you look at more of a Jake Neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, plain and simple. I mean, just from a fan's perspective, I don't see captains in the NHL being as demonstrative with their body language as much as Robert Thomas can be. And maybe it's gotten better over the course of the last couple of years. But I understand when you miss a goal or when you miss a net or like something is frustrating, but it just seems like every time he shoots wide or they make a save that he's looking at the stars, that he's looking, it's like, brother, like, you're really good. Like, it just feels like there's just like a hitch in his giddy up that is keeping him from getting to where he needs to go.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. The one thing I will kind of put an umbrella over all this captain talk is that whether they named Robert Thomas or they named Jake Neighbors, and obviously everybody has their choice, but the Blues need leaders. They need 3, 4, 5
You can't just
leaders.
have one guy.
This team is never successful when it's just got the one guy and he wears a C and everybody thinks, okay, that is a good captain, but like the Blues need the support. Like we've said this before, but talking to Ryan O'Reilly for 2 or 3 or 4 years, including a couple stories, not on video, but written stories about him being the captain.
I felt like I was in the room though when I read it.
him being the captain, he would always say, yeah, but I got this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and everybody.
Well, think about that leadership core you're talking about, like when they won the Cup. Petro was your captain, but you had Steen, you had Bouwmeester, you had Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron. Like you had tons of guys that were leaders that didn't even wear letters. So it doesn't matter who's got the C. It's more about the group of leaders that you have. And I mean, look, the rumors around Schenn, the rumors around Falk are there as well. So you might see a complete shift in that leadership core from one season to another, barring what happens the rest of this season.
And that's why I brought up the dynamic. If you gave it to Neighbors, if Thomas feels he got slighted, do you have that?
How is that part of the core?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, oh wow. These next couple months for the Blues, next few months are going to be huge.
Yep.
I mean, direction of the franchise going forward, big decisions are going to be being made here in the next few months, and it's going to be fascinating to see the direction in which that they go. All right. Again, you want to know about the live Last Minute Blues podcast taping coming up in a couple of weeks, 1057thepoint.com, 101 ESPN. Shout out to our sponsor, presented by the big podcast presented by Blue Note Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Make sure that you are following Alex and JR on their socials. So much Blues information that, I mean, I'm at my kitchen table yesterday and I'm talking to my kid, but I'm like, hey, hold on. I'm watching you talk to Jordan Bennington in the locker room. There's just so much good stuff that you guys bring to the table for fans, and I want to make sure that they're taking advantage of that. So, all of that being said, don't think I forgot anything this particular time. Live from the Jeff Burton Studios, it's the Last Minute Blues podcast. Alex, JR, thank you as always for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast on 101 ESPN
is presented by Blue Note Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.